Shalom. I would like to give all reverence, due benevolence, worship, honor, praise, and glory unto the Most High God, whose name is Yahweh, and His only begotten Son, whose name is Yahawashi. This is an exhortation to you Israelites, speaking to those of you whose fathers consider themselves to be Black, Hispanic, or Native American, that you are the true Israelites of the Bible, and a great way to receive succor in this world once you come out of the world from a spiritual standpoint is to read the Psalms. And the Psalms give us great clarity into several things, such as the law, how it's meant to be kept, as well as men who endured affliction and how they cried unto the Lord in times of straits, as well as give us clarity into other precepts throughout the scriptures that we need to piece together, precept upon precept, in order to get greater understanding of, one of which is the Most High's power in all the earth. You may be coming out of certain belief systems such as Islam, Christianity. You may be dabbling in different ideologies like Buddhism or Hinduism. You may be unsure about the God of the earth, what it means, what the meaning of life is, things of that sort. And you may have questions as to what really governs the world, who really governs the world, depending on where your mind is at. But if you've just picked up the scriptures and you're reading it from a Christian lens, or you're reading it from any other lens outside of the lens that it needs to be read in, being the understanding of who Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahawashi is, his omnipotency, omnipresence, and omniscience, then Psalm 24 is a great chapter to read, to just meditate on the Lord's power. And I'll read it and also get some precepts to make certain connections that may shoot down some of the misconceptions that you may have circling through your head, and better understand who our Lord is and how to best serve him. So this is Psalm 24, starting at verse 1. It says, "The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. For he hath founded it upon the seas, and established it upon the floods. Who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord, or who shall stand in his holy place? He that hath clean hands and a pure heart, who hath not lifted up his soul unto vanity, nor sworn deceitfully, he shall receive the blessing from the Lord, and righteousness from the God of his salvation. This is the generation of them that seek him, that seek that face, O Jacob, Salah." Reading on, verse 7, it says, "Lift up your heads, O ye gates, and be ye lift up, ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle." So those were a few precepts there. Hopefully you were following along. If you have your scriptures with you, it's great whether it's my exhortations or other exhortations that you may find online. It is great to always read with your eyes so that you can put the precepts to memory. The more you study, the more you meditate on the word, it becomes easier to really reinforce the word into your member. That being said, with Psalm 24, the first 8 precepts that I've read give us some understanding into the Lord's power. Verse 1 just tells us straight up that the entire earth belongs to the Lord and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. So that goes a long way. That talks about the Lord having control over all men in terms of their spirit, their consciousness. He turns people's spirits. The Lord is the one who dictates everything that goes on in the earth. He dictates and governs politics. He dictates and governs interpersonal relationships. He dictates and governs wars. War is a big thing. War is a major component of the scriptures. And in today's time, even though we're 2,000 plus years removed from the final writings of the scriptures, or close to 2,000 years in that ballpark, war is something that has pervaded, I believe that's the word, or prevailed rather, throughout every generation in human history, or nearly every generation in human history, that is, following Adam's transgression. That being said, we understand that the earth belongs to the Lord. And I can get that in Proverbs chapter 21, just to show what I'm talking about from the mouth of the Lord. This is Proverbs 21:1. It says, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. So that just goes to show right there that our minds, our thought processes are controlled by the Lord. And it also tells us that in the book of John, that no man can come unto the unto the Son, except the Father which hath sent him draw him, and he'll be raised up in the last day, roughly paraphrasing. So if you're fortunate enough to have your eyes open to the scriptures, to the word, and now you're serious about making the Lord the epicenter of your life, that means that the Father saw something in you from the foundation of the world, and he called you unto his Son. So that there's power on both on both sides, on every side of that equation, if you will. And speaking about the earth itself, he said, for he hath founded it upon the seas and established it upon the floods. That's Psalm 24:2. So when we read the creation account in Genesis chapter 1, we understand that the Most High created all things, the trees, the seas, the dry land, everything. So you may look at the world from a scientific perspective, and you may try to rationalize certain things. You may try to have an answer and an explanation for the solar system and the galaxy and the center of the earth and the atmosphere, temperatures, and all these things. But while, of course, the Lord did give us certain things that we can utilize to have a better understanding of our surroundings around us, we're supposed to meditate in the scriptures, which gives us an objective and true and uncompromising understanding of this material world that we live in, and how rain won't come down unless the Lord commands that rain comes down, and vegetation won't spring up unless he commands it. So if you're wondering why there's droughts and famines and crop failure in certain lands, you can say, oh, well, it's because climate change and because whatever elements cause the soil to fail and dry up and not be susceptible or receptive to rainfall. And for some reason, it's a statistical anomaly that all of these beneficial factors have taken shape and yet crops have failed. No, rather it's because it could be that the inhabitants of the land are steeped in wickedness. So the Lord said, all right, I'm not going to eat. Or it could be because the Lord is trying a people for whatever reason. But we know that very often, a great majority of the time, or a great amount of the time, I should say, things like that happen because of people's transgressions. Reading on, it says, this is Psalm 24:3. It says, who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord, or who shall stand in his holy place? So we understand that the Lord dwells in the third heaven. When we're talking about the levels of heaven, that first heaven being the firmament, the sky where the birds fly, the second heaven being the solar system, outer space, which is what we would call it, where the stars are, the moon, the sun, the planets. And then that third heaven is where no man can get to on his own volition or of his own power. You see men building rocket ships and all these things. You're not getting up to the third heaven. That's where the Lord dwells. So that lets us know even more about his power. Up there, that's where his temple is. That's where the holy angels are. That's where mortal men can't go unless he gives that permission. Now, jumping down to verse number 8, it says, who is the king? Who is this King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. And that gives us even more insight, because we understand, like I said, that the Lord dictates and governs war. So when it says that he's mighty in battle, that's because, well, the Lord fights for us. Speaking of Israel, because the scriptures are only for Israel. The Lord fights for us in our battles. He's the one who goes before us to fight our battles. And that ties into the first set of connections that I made, precept upon precept, about him controlling the minds of the people. And that you may see a great host and a great encampment around you, and you may say, well, we're doomed. And then the Lord could have those men turn on each other and fight each other, as was touched on, I believe it's in the book of Joshua, in a previous video, in a previous exhortation that was published. But there's also another example in the book of 2 Kings where the Lord gave the kingdom of Judah a great deliverance from the hand of Sennacherib during the time of Hezekiah. Sennacherib encamped around Jerusalem with 185,000 men. And the Lord sent an angel to destroy that host. I can get that. This is the book of 2 Kings, chapter 19. Bear with me while I find the exact precept that I want. So I'm actually gonna get 1 Kings chapter. Bear with me one moment. I want to get some context before getting to the nitty gritty. So this is the book of 2 Kings chapter 18, verse 13. It says, "Now in the 14th year of King Hezekiah did Sennacherib, king of Assyria, come up against all the fenced cities of Judah and took them." So Sennacherib was king of Assyria. And at this time, the Assyrians were a major world superpower. And the inhabitants of Jerusalem were about to be put to the test. Now let me find where I'm going to get now 2 Kings chapter 19. So Sennacherib came and encamped around Jerusalem. For some context, paraphrasing, Hezekiah prayed unto the Lord, and the Most High came to the kingdom of Judah's defense. So let's see how he did so. This is 2 Kings chapter 19 and verse number 32. It says, "Therefore thus saith the Lord concerning the king of Assyria, he shall not come into this city, nor shoot an arrow there, nor come before it with shield, nor cast a bank against it. By the way that he came, by the same shall he return, and shall not come into this city, saith the Lord. For I will defend this city to save it for mine own sake and for my servant David's sake. And it came to pass that night that the angel of the Lord went out and smote in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpses. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed and went and returned and dwelt at Nineveh." So there it is. 185,000 men. Sennacherib was, he had all his troops behind him, proverbially speaking. 185,000 men is a lot of men. And even in this time, but especially in that time, there were still millions upon millions of people on the earth. But we know that 8 billion people on the planet today is a great amount of people. So the Lord sent his angel to smite the Assyrian army. So the Judites and the southern kingdom that were unified unto them, they didn't even have to lift up sword or spear in order to subdue that great host. So that just goes to show the Lord's power. If you do what's pleasing unto the Lord, then and you cry unto him in times of affliction, he has the power to do anything that he wants to do. And one of those things. I mean, he can send his angels to just do just about anything. Not only so, but the Lord can also turn, like I said, turn the minds of a host, for example. So the Lord's power is great. The Lord's power is infinite. Just look around you and see all it is that he's created. Use that as motivation to search the scriptures and find all the ways in which he divulges unto us how things came to be and how we're supposed to interact with the world around us in righteousness according to the commandments. When you come to worship the Lord, you have to keep your foot. And not only so, but understand who the Most High is. Christianity teaches that the Most High is all love. He's all peace. That he's all love, that he doesn't hate anybody. But I mean, just touching on what I said, the Most High brings about peace, and he can also bring calamity upon people. And he's not all love. He loves Israel. And going even deeper than that, he has care for his elect. But we need to understand who the Lord is and not be ignorant unto his majesty, because that can lead to complacency. It can lead to a great many things. When we understand his power and how it's incredibly mighty, both in his love for our people and also in his judgment, because he will not do any iniquity. Every morning does he make his sun to rise on the wicked and the just, but the unjust knoweth no shame, roughly paraphrasing. Then we can better understand him and according to what it is that he wants us to know about him and how we are supposed to worship and reverence him. With that, I say, Shalom, Israel. Understand the Lord's power. Shalom.